Johnny, let's go to our first question for Miss Dr. Groovy here. Welcome to the Fantasy Couch with Dr. Groovy.
I'm taking it. Wow.
So,
what an opening question.
Last week, the Steelers racked up 400-plus yards. Freiermuth looked like an all-pro. Harris was pounding the ball. Johnson was making catches. Pickens was getting open. Pickett looked serviceable.
A lot of them slowly getting back down to tiny hands.
Yeah, and then yesterday happened. So what are you thinking? Are you playing any of these guys? If you have a choice, are you playing any of these guys?
No.
Down the playoffs?
No. Not now that Pickett, not now that Mitch sounding like Kenny's ankle injury might be pretty serious. He might be done for a couple of weeks or something. So you're in the hands of Mitch Trubisky, and any Bears fans out there are shuddering with PTSD when you mention that name, right? So you got to look at, yes, they should be running the ball, but you wouldn't be running it with Najee. You'd be giving it to Warren if you've got Warren in your team. I think he's the better option there. If you had to play one of these, it's got to be Freiermuth, right? It's got to be Pat, because none of the rest of them are going to be worth their salt in anything. He's the only one that's going to be getting you consistent points. The others might have one game, although the schedule for the Steelers is soft. But with that QB room and the way it is, no. Freiermuth might be the only one I would play out of this lot. Otherwise, I'd be looking to offload, move, shift some around, anything you could do, because the Steelers, with Trubisky there, it terrifies me on offense. Any defense, you'd be playing every defense that's playing the Steelers.
I agree with a lot of what you're saying, but ultimately, I am going to disagree with three players here. And I think the Steelers are going to win this. Well, they're going to go to the playoffs. They're going to be a wild card. I think Trubisky will lead them to the wild card. And if I remember correctly, Trubisky and Pickens kind of had a good thing going on for a few games last year. But I will say this. If you have Freiermuth, 100% I agree with you. Where I disagree is Harris. I think Harris is a starter for the playoffs. I think he's going to be 15-plus points every week, which for an RB2 on your team, I think that's good.
Okay. I mean, I just thought, that Warren was starting to eat into his touches, and, maybe, I've not kept too much on
I still haven't bought in on the Waller, the bandwagon. Yeah. A lot of people have, and I can see it. But
yeah, and I suppose you look at Johnson, right? He's finally getting in the end zone. He had those 95 receptions before he scored a TD or something insane. I know, it's like, so you'd think regression and natural regression, he's going to be scoring more TDs, but he's only got a couple, and I don't see.
Yeah.
Yes, they opened up last week with 400 yards, but they still only scored 16 points.
Do you think Pickett has a future, or do you think he's going to be an habitual, 18 to 23 type rank?
He's got a Minshew future, right? He's in that lower end of the spectrum, starting just a very capable, good level second backup type thing. So I think he's in that Minshew. Yeah, no, it won't. I mean, he struggled, obviously, coming in after Big Ben. You're always going to be under the spotlight here and whatever else. And he was like, the local guy, come good and whatever else. And yes, I mean, maybe it's early. It's only year 3 for him now.
2, right? He was a rookie last year, right?
Yeah, right. So, he's got time to progress and get better, but he's not shown that step forward you'd hope for a second year, considering the game time he got. So
I agree.
It's one of those hard ones to judge. You wouldn't trade him away in Dynasty. It's a good one if you've got a deep bench. He's a good QB3 to have, because he might come good next year. And as you say, the Steelers are going to be always in the mix of playoffs because Tomlin just doesn't lose. He just doesn't have a losing season,
coach.
right?
I will say, I bet heavily on Pickett this year. Not necessarily as a QB1, but I had him as a QB2 and a QB3 in a lot of teams. And I was wrong about him this year. He has not, and with that, Pickens have not performed as well as I thought they would have. And I agree.
As you say, you saw the flashes last year of them where you thought, maybe if they take the second year step that you expect for, and they just haven't. They've kind of stayed where they were.
I think Canada
didn't help. I mean, we saw that with, let's be honest, I know I'm jumping slightly ahead of the Monday night game, and you look at Trevor Lawrence's first year under Urban Meyer, right? And bad coaching can ruin a year and can ruin a season for a top draft pick or whatever else. And look at Lawrence now after some decent coaching has come into Jags. So,
oh my God,
it's still possible, right? Still a chance that these guys can turn it around. So,
good point, Groovy. Urban Meyer ruined Lawrence's first year. All right, I think we have more or less a consensus. If
you can swerve the Steelers,
go with it.
Yeah.
If you don't, Freiermuth, perhaps Harris could be solid. But if you have a better option, go with those guys.
But again, check the schedules. If you've got one of those guys, the Steelers have got some sort of soft games coming up. So maybe one of the, Johnson might be a flex one to throw in there. And when they've got a softer schedule and a soft defense that are going, I think they got to play the Patriots. In fact, next week, right? So you put them all in, right? It's just
put them all.
Put them all in against the Patriots.
Relax. So, Gary, this is an interesting question. And I think it's a great question.
It is, yeah.
So, you're down, or your predicted score has a difference of, say, 30-plus points.
Sounds like me every game this season.
You are not expected to win. Are you going to play your bench players that have some huge, like Alec Pierce this week, right? Yeah. 30-plus points, I think. Are you going to play those boom-bust guys? Are you going to go with your steady, 9 to 13-point scoring guys that don't really do much outside of that? Who are we playing to hopefully pull off an upset?
Right. Now, again, caveating this with check out my record. Maybe I'm not the most sensible person to talk about it. But if you're in the playoffs and you're looking at, your opponent has, on the numbers, a better team than you, as you say, 30 points, 35 points projected, whatever else. And based on, some of the stats and some of these sleeper projections have been way off this year. So just watch out for that if that's what you're going.
I agree. 100%.
Some of them have just been like, well, where are you getting those figures from?
Yeah.
Are you watching the game?
They're predicting hits at like 18-plus points every week in some of my leagues. Pitts hasn't scored 18
the prime example. He hasn't scored 18 points ever, I don't think.
Right. Maybe.
So those are the kind of things, you look at those, and I think Dalvin Cook's still projected to score massive points every week. And team players that are like, come on, it's basing off last year and whatever. So just watch out for that. I mean, but in this scenario, you're a huge underdog. You're in the playoffs. You're one and done, right? If you get this wrong, you're going done. Season's over. You have to take a swing for the fences. I wouldn't say totally. I wouldn't say put all of the everything has to hit for this to work. You got to keep some consistency. You got to get some points on the board and put some of your regular guys in. But I would say if you've got a wide receiver 2 or somebody you're putting in the flex who has that potential massive upside, got to swing for the fences here in the playoffs.
I'm feeling you, Gary. I think you're right. I think my mind, my thoughts agree with you 100%. My heart.
I mean, I wouldn't know. As I say, I haven't been in a playoff position, so I couldn't tell you if that actually works. Maybe next year I could let you know. But
my heart on the other hand, really makes me. It's so tough to go with like Alec Pierce or
Yeah, yeah,
Zay
you're
Flowers.
Matt.
Those guys that could. Isaiah Likely, actually, kind of guy.
Yeah,
He
could
could
take the
have a
roof off. Could
huge
take the roof
20
off.
plus
Yeah,
game, replacing Andrews.
yeah.
But you just don't know. It's
Let's
so
try
hard.
move the get 9 points.
But
Right.
if I'm going out, I'm going to go out swinging. I think I'm with you.
That's how
And
I
just
look at it.
to
It's a play.
mention your record, because you've mentioned it a couple of times now. In fantasy football, I never grade the quality of an owner solely based on one team's record in one league or one season, one
Yeah.
year, etc. Because it could just take the one guy ahead of you drafting, always takes your guy. And he's the one with the 10-2 record, or the 10,
He's the one sitting there at
11-2
8-4,
record,
and I'm like,
and you're the guy with the 10 or the 2-10 record.
yeah. And injuries this year have been
Yeah,
massive, right? Teams have been
injuries
decimated
have
by.
really people that have JJ.
Yeah,
I mean, their season has been wrecked. If they make it to the playoffs, they could really surprise because they're going to be a 5 or 6 seed, and JJ could explode, depending if Dobbs
if he gets
or
back and whoever.
whoever is going to play quarterback is able to
Yeah.
perform.
Mullins back off. No, anyway, moving on.
Mullins, yeah, thank you. I couldn't remember the guy. Mullins. I would still go with Dobbs if I were the Vikings.
Gives you a better upside. It gives you the legs
Yeah.
upside. I mean, Mullins is a ceiling player, right? You know exactly.
By the way, just some foreshadowing here. Dobbs is a top 15 overall scorer in the Orkney Bowl. So I'm curious to find out some information about him later, perhaps, or some insight that you might have. So I think Dr. Groovy and I both agree here. If you're going to go out swinging. Go out with style. Play those guys.
What's the point of sitting there going, I wish I'd have put that guy in, right? I mean, if you had the hunch, you think he's going to go,
your
get him in.
guys swing for the fences. Yeah. It reminds me of a few baseball analogies, Swing for the fences if you're down by 4. A single doesn't win you.
You're going to lose, right?
A grand slam does.
Yeah. If your bases are loaded and you've got a hitter on home point, you just got to swing, right? You got to take a swing.
That's right.
Because
swing for the fences. Let's do it.
The season's done if you don't, and that's the worst case scenario. I should have played him. It's like, well, why didn't you?
Well, you're going to lose anyway.
You got a long time to play. Shoulda, coulda, right?
Exactly. All right, Johnny. What do we have next? So we have 3-4 slides of players that you're going to choose. Are you going to play them or are you going to sit them? Now, right here, of course, you're going to play Williams. So what I would like to perhaps change the question slightly. Let's look at them individually. Singletary has seemed to have taken a back seat the last 2 or 3 weeks.
Which is strange because he had a big week a few weeks back.
So is Pierce?
The Texans have also gone away from the run as well. It's like,
Stroud. Well, it's going to be interesting with Dell out. Are they going to go back to the running game?
Just thinking that. I mean, initially I looked at this and I thought Kyren Williams, twice on Sunday type thing. But then you look at it and you think, oh, hang on, Tank Dell was a big part of that Texans offense. Will they have to restructure? Will they start to lean a little more on a run game that's been kind of non-existent or has kind of definitely taken a back seat in the last few weeks? And will that injury change the mentality of the Texans going forward? So maybe Pierce isn't a bad. No, you still can't you can't look beyond Williams. He's come back from injury. The Rams are motoring. They've just moved into the wild card position over the Seahawks now with their, and they are running it really well. Their offensive line is kind of getting healthy and whatever else. They're running the ball really well. So you've got to look at Williams from that over any sort of Texans running back. But individually, it's a tricky one.
Well, I will tell you, if I have a team, I have Kyron Williams on about half of my 30 teams, and
Hmm.
I'm going to play him on every single team that I have. I have Pierce. Last year, I had him on almost, well, at least 80 to 90%. And then I traded him on about 75% of those.
Yeah.
This year, if I have, well, I do have Damian, and the teams that I am fighting in the playoffs, I am still going to be sitting him. I still
Yep.
don't trust Pierce to perform on a weekly basis.
Yep.
If I have other options, I'm going to be sitting Pierce still, and I will be playing Williams. What's your thought on that?
Yeah, you'd have to. I mean, he's a nice one to have on the bench for. I'm not sure, but I think the Texans have got a pretty easy game in a week or two where potentially, they'll be able to run the clock out, and then Pierce will do the workhorse, sort of get your points on that game. But he's only going to score you 3, 4, 5 points maybe, and then he'll have one game where he might score you 15 if you're lucky, type thing. But Williams at the moment is going to be outscoring him 2 or 3 times that, so you have to be going to Williams.
So this week, let's see what he scored this week. I'm just curious. What was I think he had a good week this week, right? Oh my sleeper is not updating. I apologize. So we'll just move on past that then.
Damian Pierce, what did he score? He scored. Oh, look at that! He scored so far. Where are we? Denver? Was it Denver they were playing? He scored 11 and a bit.
11
So
points this week. Oh, that's not as good as I thought. Yeah.
yeah.
Wow, 11
So even
points.
even on a good.
Top 15 still, I guess, right? 12 here in our league. He had 12. So that's what? Still top 20. No. Wow, that's not even the top 20.
It's not even. And look at Kyron Williams. He got you 20, near enough 26 points, 25.6.
A-Chain with 30.
Yeah.
Hey, I think we might be speaking about A-Chain later, and I have a question
I think
for
we
you.
should. Yeah, we certainly should be. I think, but yeah.
So, Johnny, let's go to the next group of players. So, again, I'd rather not put them against each other. I'd like to take them individually. But if you did have a choice between Cook or Madison, which one are you going to start?
Neither. If you really had to put one of these guys in, I suppose you'd lean Mattis because the lead running back in Buffalo is Josh Allen. Saying that the lead running back in Minnesota at the moment is Josh Dobbs. So neither of these guys are. Cook maybe gets you some catches out of the backfield. Maybe it's a real struggle. I mean, these guys. If this is the battle you're having at running back, well, bad luck because this is ugly. The Vikings have not run the ball well all season. I mean, they've. I don't still understand why they traded for Cam Akers other than to get him out of LA. There must have been a favor somewhere because they just don't run the ball very well. Look at that, Kamara wrapped it up. For these two, I mean, Cook's always looks like he should be. He should be on a good team. He should be scoring you points. But then Buffalo just don't run the ball very well unless it's by Josh Allen playing, backyard football and scampering all over the place and, he is. I think I'm right in both Joshes being the lead runners or the lead, the rushing leaders for both of these teams. So any RB that you've got on these teams is a filler if you have to put them in. I suppose I'd go with Cook for the potential out of the backfield, some extra points on receptions, but it's a real struggle, these two.
Yeah, I agree with a lot of what you're saying because what you're saying is, well thought out. It's logical. It makes sense. If I am choosing,
I can see it. There's definitely a butt coming there.
I am 100% going with Cook, though. I mean, for me, if you're looking at the two situations, you got Madison with a hurt QB. You got Madison that, he's for me, he's one of those boomer bust guys. You're going to put him in there to hopefully he booms for you this week,
Yeah.
right? That he usually sits on the bench as your RB3, RB4 guy. But this week, if you're in the playoffs and you're an underdog, I'm going to play him because you never know.
You
But
never know, right? Yeah.
if I am in a tight game or match with another owner, I am playing Cook. And I would still play Cook as an RB2 if I didn't have a lot of other options. He's still scoring in the top 15 running backs. So a lot of people don't like him. But, when you have a 10 or 12 team league, if you're number 13 in scoring, that makes you number 1 RB2.
RB2, yeah. I suppose it does, but I suppose I'm looking ahead, right? If we're talking real life now and how things are, you look ahead at what's coming down the line for these two. You lean more towards Madison because Cook's got a horrid schedule coming up. He's got the Chiefs, he's got the Cowboys, he's got to go to Miami. You're picking your schedules there, whereas I think Madison potentially has Raiders, Bengals, Lions twice who can't defend. So
So you're looking at the schedule and saying Madison would be the better option if I see that. It's just the QB, and I've been thinking the Vikings are a hit and miss all season. I don't think they're going to make the playoffs.
Vikings are regressing. Yeah,
holding.
I think the Vikings were one of those teams last year that were an anomaly with so many games of one score that they won.
What was it? They won nine one-score games in the fourth quarter, or come from behind games, something like that, an NFL record. Yeah, it ain't happening this year. They're missing the playoffs. They're not going to make it. They're not going to make it.
Packers and the Lions are coming out of that division.
With that. And I feel bad for Dobbs. I was really hoping that he would continue his, Cinderella story, but it may have crashed. The pumpkin.
Yeah, it's exactly what happened at Arizona. He came in, he played really well. Yeah, he played really well in Arizona. Everyone's like, oh, maybe this, but then reality kind of crept in weeks 2, 3, 4. People worked him out.
Shows you how good Cousins was.
It shows you how good. I mean, Cousins lit up the Niners on that game. So he was so efficient. So it's a massive loss for Minnesota that he's gone. But on this one, you lean towards Madison if you're in the. When did the playoffs start? Week 15?
Next week. Not this week. Next week. But
next week. Yeah.
Week from this Sunday.
Yeah. So on that week, you've got Cook against the Cowboys. Ouch. Or you got Madison against the Bengals, and the Burrowless Bengals, I would suggest, is probably a better matchup than against.
I see Cook having a big game against the Cowboys.
Oh, there you go. Well, I guess we'll come back and check on that in a couple of weeks. But
Gary, you should come in on a guest spot just for at least like 5-10 minutes to see.
Or just go. Told you so. Told you so.
Told you so. Some of these. Yeah,
absolutely.
I love it. All right, Johnny, let's go to our next group.
It's the only way I'm going to get into any sort of playoff sort of conversation, anyway, right?
Now, obviously, if you're looking at the names, the stats, the play-in, everyone is laughing at this. But no one is looking at the numbers. Wilson is a top 10 QB this year.
The Cowboys, he hit a bit of a bump. He hit a bit of a bump against the Texans, but his stats and everything have been really good in the last 6 weeks.
If you look at the Cowboys' schedule, as you said, we got what? We got the Bills.
Eagles. You got Eagles next week. Seahawks, I think.
No, we just beat the Seahawks.
Oh, yeah, you just beat them.
Pez. Actually, yeah, I'm gonna
Always
have to
like
look this up. I can't remember. They have 3 tough
I
games.
get some tough games. I mean, you've got a double commanders coming up at some point
Oh
in as
yeah,
well.
the Dolphins, the Lions,
Hey,
the Bills, the Eagles. My gosh, the
Eagles,
next 4
Bills,
games:
yeah.
Eagles, Bills, Dolphins, Lions.
Hmm.
My gosh, is Dak going to be able to continue this amazing streak of 30 plus points going against the Eagles, the Lions, the Bills, and the Dolphins?
Eh, Some of those you'd say yes. The Lions defense, I think yes, definitely, because that's it's porous. That Lions defense is not stopping anybody, so he probably will score against them. Bills, maybe not. Um, I would suggest, yeah, I got a feeling he will. Okay, so leave me the mic. Okay, I got a feeling he will because he has to. The Cowboys now, after the Eagles got kind of pretty much beaten up this weekend.
Yeah. Sorry, I don't know. I was trying to sign into the comments and then it
Nah,
logged me out. And anyway, I'm back, Gary. I apologize. I'm trying to follow the
you're all good.
comments.
No
Yeah.
worries, no worries. It's all good. So yeah, I think I could see Dak sticking with it because Cowboys are going to win out, right? They're still in with the chance of winning their division. Eagles just got beat up. The Eagles are going to be struggling after last week, and the humbling that they just got handed at home. At least the Cowboys, when they came to the 49ers, they came to the 49ers and, 42 got put on them. Whereas, the Niners have just gone into the Eagles. And with all the trash talk, I think that's opened up the soft underbelly of the Eagles there. And I think the Cowboys are going to, they have to win out. They've got some really tough games, as you say. But I see this is time for Dak to prove himself. And
Yeah, Johnny
he's,
just said Wilson as the 8th QB this season. No
yeah,
one thought that, right?
not after last season. No,
I could
that's,
not even get a 3rd round draft choice for this guy in the beginning of the season.
yeah, nobody wanted to touch him, did they? Everyone thought he was cooked and whatever else, and he was
Yeah,
done, too
I
old.
actually have him on several teams. I took a flyer on him last
Yeah,
season with some low round,
you
low
could buy
second
him low, right?
round,
Yeah,
early third
absolutely.
round draft choices. And I'm quite pleased. I think I will certainly be able to get that for him in the offseason. Even
Should
if
be
I
able to.
don't, I think he'll be better next year, actually. I really
Another
do.
with another year under Peyton, yeah, definitely. I mean, they started off really roughly. They've started to listen to the coach. They've started to kind of understand where Peyton's going with it. So yeah, he couldn't have been any worse than last year, and obviously he's not been, but he should progress to
Yeah.
make it, as long
I
as he
will
stays
tell you
healthy.
my
He's going to
biggest surprise is Dak's performance under Schottenheimer as an offensive coordinator.
yeah.
When have you ever seen a Schottenheimer offense in the top 5?
Just doesn't happen. It just doesn't happen. So it's surprising, but I mean, CD Lamb is having a season, right?
Oh my gosh!
That's
And Pollard
potentially
is starting to play. Man,
finally. I mean, that's been
I
missing, I think. So I think if the run game gets going, then you've got to play Dak because if they can lean on Pollard and he starts to open some holes, then he's got the weapons to really cause you problems with CD Lamb and his legs. So you got to be playing. You have to be playing Dak in this one. If you've got a flex and you've got
oh
Wilson,
yeah,
then
you got to play
win.
Dak every week. Every week, play Dak. I think
Yeah,
even against the Eagles, 100%.
especially against the Eagles. Look how many points Brock just put against the Eagles, and he's not got. His legs are not as good. So the upside of Dak with these legs against the Eagles. Psh,
Well done, by the way, on the Niners. I tell you, they are one of those crazy, I guess, schizophrenic teams. Multiple personalities. You just never
yeah,
know
which
what
one's
they're
going
going
to
to
turn?
do.
Yeah, I
But
thought
they
something.
are the dominant team this year
They are
by
the
far.
team. I mean, yes, the Eagles have the better record, and the Eagles have won tough, gritty, nasty games. But when it comes down to who's played the best football, It's night and day clear that the Niners are the best team at the moment, but they just haven't quite
Oh
got the
yeah,
best because of they had
it's
that
not
bump.
even close. And
Yeah,
I would
and it
say the
showed.
Cowboys.
It showed on Sunday. It was like, okay, that's the difference. Everyone was saying who's the best team and whatever else, and it was like that's a fully fit Niners team. They just went into Lincoln Field. First quarter, they kind of, I said to one of the guys, it's like a rope a dope. Here's the first quarter. Let's see what you got. I was at it. 2 field goals. Right, now it's our turn. And from the second quarter onwards, it was foot to the floor and just complete juggernaut demolition.
Mm. I have tried not to talk about the Cowboys much during this show because I know most of the 96 owners in our league hate the Cowboys with a
Yep.
passion. And
Yep.
they don't want to hear me talking about the Cowboys. They don't. But I think it's about time to mention that the Cowboys are playing well. And if they had played a
Played
bit
anyway
tougher
since.
schedule earlier and had the same record, I would say they are playing as well as the 49ers. However, Dr. Groovy, let me finish.
Yeah, well, I'll let you
Let
finish
me
that
finish.
before
Until we beat the Eagles, the Bills, the Dolphins, and the Lions, we have nothing to say.
Yep.
If we go 3-1, we have something to say. If we go 2-2, we can. We
could
can
kind of
bark.
stay in the
We
conversation.
can bark. But I don't know if we can bite.
Yeah, you've got to back it up, as you say. You've been playing
Yeah.
really well, but then you look at the schedule that you've played, and you kind of go, "Yeah,
Let's see
okay,"
what
but
the next 4 games.
you haven't played anyone. And then going back to the the college football conversation we had at the beginning. Hey, you haven't played anyone, so really, are you in a top 4 team, or should you be out of that playoff position?
Yeah, I think that's what ultimately hurt FSU. Alabama had a top, I think, 15 schedule and strength of schedule, and FSU did not. So,
I mean, it's like,
I think FSU should have made it. I think they were robbed. Undefeated ACC. Anyway, Johnny, let's go to the next one. Obviously, you're playing A-Chain. Obviously.
even if he is the RB2 in a Miami offense, he still, as you saw this weekend, he got in and got 2 TDs and racked up some points. Granted,
I'm just wondering, is he going to get hurt next week?
that's the only concern. He's been a bit dinged, doesn't he? He has one game where he, lights it up, and in the next game he pulls a hammy or gets a ding on the ribs or something. So, but it's not surprising when you watch him move. He goes so fast that it's not surprising the guy gets injured, right? That's the thing. But that Dolphins team is terrifying when it hits top speed. It's like, and that surprised me, but it doesn't surprise me because who else has Tampa Bay got? Yeah, they've got Mike Evans, but they need Rashad White to be putting in the numbers before they can open it up and start to put it in the air, right? So
Yeah. Gary, I got to be honest with you. I failed not only as a host but as a fantasy league owner. I did not realize that White was RB3 until this week, and this week he's RB5 now. I had no idea.
That's
No idea. Completely under the radar.
That's one of those under the radar. Somebody's sitting there going, "Loving this guy." Nobody picked him up. He probably picked him up late second, maybe.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
because
Well, he's
everyone
not
was
a
looking at
rookie.
that.
Yeah, they
Not a
probably got
rookie.
him around 11, round
Yeah.
12.
Everyone's looking at Tampa Bay going, who? What? Oh, they've got nothing. Everyone was staying away from Tampa thinking they were going to be horrid this year. And now suddenly he has Rashad White sitting there. And as you say, RB5, which is like, woof. Wouldn't have picked that one. You would not have picked him as a top.
Here's my A-Chain question that I foreshadowed earlier, Gary. Do you know McGunnell? I don't know if I said his name. I am in a few leagues with this guy, and he knows his trades. You got to be on top of your game when he sends you a trade request. You better do your homework before you hit that accept button.
Oh yeah, he has sent me a few interesting ones.
Because when you think you're the winner, that's when he's going to get you.
Yeah.
Anyway, so he sent me in a keeper league. Okay, to where if you keep your guy, you got to do one round above. So if you draft a guy in round 6, you got to pay around 5 to keep him.
Yeah.
Right. So he sent me a trade. Jackson Smith Najiba. He was drafted in round 6. And he sent me a straight up trade for A-Chain that I picked up as a free agent. Now, I hit accept only because, well, A-Chain, I just saw him get hurt. And I'm thinking this guy's going to miss half the season every year. He's a small guy, but when he plays, he'll put up 30, but he's going to miss 4 to 6 games every year. He's never going to have 16 games. And JSN is actually, from what I see, is starting to fit in that offense.
Yeah, he's taken over the Lockett role in Seattle. Yeah.
So my question is, would you trade A-Chain for Najiba?
So you put undrafted in your league?
He's undrafted.
Oh. No.
I did it. I did the trade.
So you got A-Chain, or
close
you
enough.
sold
Let's have some fun. Let's do it. It'll be good to talk about next year.
Yeah. So you sold A-Chain and got Najiba, or the other way around?
I sold A-Chain. I picked him up as a free agent and sold him, traded him for Najiba.
For potentially a 5th rounder if you keep Najiba.
Yeah, if I keep him, I got to pay a 5th round to keep him. While McGee will pay a 13th round. On that, he wins.
Mm-hmm.
Certainly. So let's
on that.
take away that. Let's just say, would you trade? Who would you rather have straight up?
A-Chain. I think thinking about it, because most I know Raheem. I love Raheem, but he's 31. 32.
31.
He might. Yeah, he's a running back. He's going to possibly
be 32 by the start of next year.
Yeah, so A-Chain's probably going to be your lead back in Miami. Another year of McDaniels coaching and training, and getting that playbook, versus a Seattle team whose QB is uncertain. Gino, is he going to be around? Is he doing? Is he?
He will be around next year.
He'll be around, but he's not the Gino of.
So.
Yeah, and with you've got DK there at Seattle. Well, maybe you still have DK at Seattle. Who knows?
I think Lockett will be gone.
I think Lockett, and so Najiba will probably move into the Lockett role.
Yeah,
but I still think A-Chain has possibly got the bigger upside.
Yeah,
and as you say, because of the
I'm starting to regret the trade a little bit, to be honest.
It's feel a little bit like he probably got a better trade out of it, but you haven't. It's not the worst loss to take, right? It's one of those. But yeah,
because I certainly would have kept A-Chain in giving up a 13th round. I don't know if I'm going to keep JSN
and give up a 5th.
Pay a 5th for him. 5th in a keeper league. That's round 8. Will JSN go before round 8?
Next year? Yeah.
I think so. Yeah, so he might be worth keeping round 5.
Yeah. I would say so. Yeah, he'll go.
Right. So we both agree here, Dr. Groovy. We're going to keep White and A-Chain in the starting lineup. Certainly, this is a no-brainer. Let's go to the next one, Johnny. We're going to have to go a little quicker here to keep it under an hour here. Sorry, I've been talking too much. So this is a long question, but basically, I'm going to paraphrase. So, hey.
How much money is Kirk Cousins getting, right?
Yeah, is Cousins coming back? And if he does, how much are they going to pay him? And does, the results happening right now affect their decision going forward? Now, let's try to get this in a nice 1-minute answer for me.
1-minute answer, right? I think he comes back to the Vikings. He does, because Jefferson, Addison, maybe a bit of an uplift on that running back position. Cousins, he's already shown TJ Hawkinson there as well. He's already shown what he can do when fully fit and when he has that. They tore apart the Niners and he only had one receiver. You get JJ back in there. You get somebody like Cousins who's, he's not elite. He's not in that sort of bracket of Mahomes and Herbert and whatever else, but he's been around. He knows what he's doing. He knows how to manage it. Yes, he comes back to the Vikings. He gets them back to the playoffs next year. How much money does he get? A lot. He gets
45 plus minimum.
Yeah, easy. He's got to get a bag. He's got to get a lot. And if the Vikings don't give it to him, then the Colts.
This guy has won the business of football.
Yeah, this guy. I mean, there are teams out there who will throw money at him, who have either just gone and drafted a rookie and need somebody who's going to be sensible or whatever else. He is your ultimate plug and play. Get him in there, guy. Where would he go? Just sort of thinking.
I spilled my water, mate. I apologize.
No worries. You're all good. I'm just trying to think where would be a good
my water in the middle of the show.
That'll teach you. Oh, that hydration is bad for you.
And of course, you spill a bottle this big, the water goes everywhere. I mean,
just think the glass would be fine, but you've got a 4-liter bottle you've just poured over. I mean, would Cousins? I mean, Cousins to the Saints. That seems an interesting one because Carr's not worked out there. That would be an interesting one. Where else would he go?
Saints, I really thought Carr would do a bit better, but I wasn't expecting much. I was expecting 10 to 15 performance. But I'm not sure he's done that, to be honest. I think he's been a disappointment for the Saints and Dennis Allen so far. But I never had trust in Dennis Allen, and I always thought he was, the Saints were always.
Here's an interesting one. Here's an interesting one. Yeah.
So let's go to the next one, Johnny.
Smith goes, if the head coach goes from the Falcons and Cousins goes to the Falcons with the weapons that the Falcons have. Suddenly can't concentrate London. No, I'm just kind of spitballing a little bit, but that's a fit.
Email Mike Florio and let him start these. Cousins to the Falcons. That would be awesome.
Think about it, though. That offense is stacked, and they just have. Ooh.
So, Johnny, let's go down to the next one.
Could make the NFC South finally an interesting division now.
Johnny, I want to see the next question before we answer this. Yeah, let's go to the previous one. I apologize, Johnny. So we're going to skip the next one, and we're going to answer this as our last question of the evening, or the day, or the show. So, Dr. Groovy, what players have the best or worst schedule down the stretch that these are the guys that you really want or don't want on your team?
No, I looked at this earlier and I thought I found one that was like, this is where you want to be going. That's it. I found it now. I remember now. You want on your team Nico Collins. Nico Collins at the Texans. The Texans have a schedule that's favorable. They got to go up against the awful Jets next week. They got the Titans twice. They got Cleveland with no QB. Yes, I think they've got one. The Colts, who knows? And Minshew mania going on at the Colts, who knows? The Texans have a chance there to really cement their place. And with Dell
terrible
going
teams that you're mentioning, but have the Browns have one of the best defenses. The Jets probably has the best defense.
Both of those defenses are creaking because all they've been doing is propping up a non-existent offense. The Jets look.
The Jets got a safety, their third safety of the year. You know how amazing that is.
Yeah, the Browns let up. Well, I mean, the Jets have scored more safeties than TDs this year, I think, or something insane. Right?
I wouldn't be surprised.
And then I think the Browns' defense is starting to creak because they have been on the field a lot, and both of these defenses have been on the field a lot. And yes, they're ranked high, but they're ranked high, and it's week 13, 14 now. They are creaking. They already, and there's this fractious going on in the Jets. It looks just horrid. I mean, they just lost to the Falcons, for crying out loud. Nobody should lose to the Falcons.
Well, you know,
It's bad in New York.
I
And
don't
I
like
say,
Aaron Rodgers. So I was pulling for the Jets despite Aaron Rodgers. But with his little, I think this whole IR game that he's doing is his whole ego. And, you know,
I think
love
losing to the Falcons puts. I think
He
losing to the Falcons
deserves the
puts that.
pain the Jets are giving him right now.
Yeah, I mean, the Jets made a big mistake by not going and getting a backup for Rodgers and saying, yeah, Zach Wilson's our man. I mean, come on. Especially, and then not doing it in the offseason, fine. But then when Rodgers went down, then that's when you make your move, because you look at your QB room and go, oh, all that good feeling that we had when Rodgers is gone. Yes, I get it that Rodgers is on a massive contract, whatever else, and if he comes back, etc., etc. But look at how bad the season has been. You're now talking about, they're talking about the head coach being on the block and everything else. It's like all that good feeling just got sucked out of that building.
It's terrible, OC.
Oh, it's terrible.
And, if you look at what they brought in Lazard and all these other guys from the Packers.
It was the Green Bay Old Boys Club, wasn't it?
And they're just old receivers, and they're not good for Wilson. And the Jets. I tell you,
Jets are going to Jets, right? But I say, as I say, players to get in the stretch now. If you can get Nico Collins, I'm not
going down the slippery slope. I will just say Woody Johnson. He deserves what they're getting. Anyway, go to the next question. Skip the next. Let's go to the next. Playoff preparations. One guy that will lose you the championship.
Tony Pollard.
Really?
Yeah.
I was not expecting that. But yeah, you know what? I think you're right.
Mm-hmm.
Because they're either going to be, he's not a grinder, is he? So if they have a big lead, they don't give him the ball with big leads.
Nope. They put all the other guys in. He doesn't score the points that you need. And if you're relying on it, you're in trouble.
And if they're behind,
they're throwing it to CeeDee Lamb.
Yeah, and Ferguson and Cooks now, they're not. Pollard is, the
not
3, 4, 5. Yeah. You know what? I think you could be right. And that's a good choice.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Because you put Pollard, you're putting Pollard in every game, right? You're like, RB1 all the time. But he's going to be one of those ones you're relying on 12,
Johnny,
15
what's his
points.
RB rank right now, Pollard? Yeah, you are going to start him every week. You got to, especially after his last few weeks. He's been performing well.
Oh, he's way down. He's not too high. Where is he?
His overall rank? Running backs, season, fantasy points.
There you go. Where are I? 227. So he's about 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9.
9.
I got him at 9.
Okay.
Yeah.
So in a 12-team league, that's still a solid RB1.
Yeah. I think you lean on him and he doesn't get you the points.
Yeah, but you're going to be relying on him to be more than just 15, though, right? You're going to be wanting him to get you 20.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I know those 5-6 points could be the ones that.
I think that's the best answer of the night. We should start. Having Johnny take this down. We should start awarding answer of the night. Right there.
There it is.
Our answer
there's
of the
your
show.
There's your mic drop moment. Mic drop moment there, because when I mentioned him, I saw your face.
Tony Pollard, right there. So,
I saw your face when I said it. It was like.
Let's make a what do you call sound bite? So, Dr. Groovy, what's the one player you think will cost you the playoffs?
Tony Pollard.
Oh! Okay, there's your sound bite, Johnny. Johnny, let's go to the next one.